Welcome to First. I'm Mark Eichman along with Shirley Min and Nichelle Polston. Picasso went through lots of artistic periods in his life. This week we look at what we call the hidden period. With a little help from the folks at Winterthur, we'll explain what we mean.
The term Common Core needs no explanation if you're a teacher. But how do those teachers change their approaches to get their students to learn?
One Wilmington restaurant is learning new ways for healthier eating. This week, the connection between a vegan eatery and an ice cream shop. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
Winterthur is renowned in the art restoration world. Currently, it's part of an international art mystery. It focuses on Pablo Picasso's The Blue Room, and more importantly, what's hidden underneath that masterpiece. First Look sets the stage, which extends from Paris to Washington, D.C. to right here in Delaware. This is The Blue Room, painted by Pablo Picasso in 1901. It's an important work in its own right, representing the start of Picasso's blue period.
It is a color that's associated with a kind of melancholy and emotional qualities that he injects into his painting.
But there's something very intriguing about this internationally acclaimed painting, and it's hiding just beneath the surface.
If you just look at the painting, you can see that the texture of the paint doesn't match the image that we see. So that's a clue to know that there's something underneath.
This hidden painting was first suspected in the 1950s, but art conservators at the time had little technology to help them discover who or what was hidden beneath the Blue Room. Fast forward 5 or 6 decades and technology is finally able to piece together the mystery. We traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with Patty Favero at the Phillips Collection, which is home to the Blue Room.
I can see here that these strokes match these, and so I can interpret that these strokes that we see in the infrared are actually underneath.
Favero has spent hundreds of hours trying to learn more about the hidden man beneath the painting.
I wanted to see if we could either get a better image or just learn more about the painting to see if we could get some clues to identify the sitter. And also, the Blue Room itself is such an important painting in Picasso's early work.
To further the investigation, Favero turned to an expert at Winterthur in Delaware to get a better idea of what the hidden painting looked like.
So that's the top painting, that blue line at the top. And then this is the bottom painting underneath, which you can see is very thick.
Jennifer Mass is a senior conservation specialist at Winterthur. One primitive method of studying the painting was to take a microscopic piece out of the painting and examine it.
This is reflected visible light and ultraviolet light microscope, and we use this to look at tiny paint samples in cross sections. So literally, like you would take a slice of a piece of cake and then see the layers in cross section, we can see the paint layers in cross section from the Picasso that we're studying here. Mass also connected with researchers at Cornell University that she had worked with to develop what's called confocal X-ray fluorescence, which is a microscope that allows you to do what we call depth profiling, where you define a focal point for the X-ray beam, and so you're going sort of micrometer by micrometer through the paint layers and getting elemental information. Back in D.C., the team also got help from John Delaney at the National Gallery of Art.
Where I see it, it's probably the most complete study of any of the Blue Period paintings in terms of technically. They have a good understanding of what the palette is, what the distribution of paint is, how it relates to the final composition, and are probably very close to knowing who maybe the sitter would be.
So what does the man hidden beneath the Blue Room look like in color? It's a difficult question with no easy answer. The conservators and curators are working with us to pour through this data and come up with what will ultimately be likely done in a program like Photoshop to sort of fill in and reconstruct what the painting would have looked like originally.
I would like to do a color approximation of the painting underneath, but that presents its own issues. We certainly don't want to suggest something that isn't there and then give that to the art historian and say, here it is, this is what it looked like. And what they've learned from the Blue Room can now be applied to other works.
So there's a lot of paintings that have been modified and changed that people want to understand, and this is just giving a whole new opportunity to look at it.
For these conservators and art historians, unraveling this mystery means the discovery of another masterpiece.
We're really bringing new Picasso to light for art historians to study and for the public to see for the first time.
Fascination is the only word that can describe it best. This kind of compelling story about this seemingly finished portrait underneath this iconic work.
I think it's a pretty significant discovery that we made. It was only possible with the collaboration. It took everybody involved to figure this out.
The painting has been on display in South Korea, but is returning for an exhibition at the Phillips in Washington through the summer before heading out on yet another loan period.
This is so interesting, but Mark, how do they figure out the colors without specialty cameras, microscopes, and other technology?
It really is a primitive, almost barbaric way. Believe it or not, they would surgically remove a microscopic piece of the painting, say the size of a period in the newspaper.
Oh my gosh.
Then they would study that under a microscope. Obviously, you can only do that in very limited areas of the painting. So the new higher tech methods and cameras, obviously much more preferable.
And Winterthur obviously putting itself right in the middle of all this international intrigue.
It really is an internationally renowned painting. People all over the world calling at Winterthur, also at the Phillips, just to learn more about the painting and the latest of what they've uncovered there. There are tentative plans for an exhibit documenting the work that you saw in our piece, kind of pulling back the curtain on the science to show how they've really examined this hidden masterpiece.
Very cool stuff. Thank you so much, Mark. And when the curtain is pulled back, you can read about it on newsworks.org/Delaware. To learn about events at Winterthur, you can visit them online at winterthur.org. Up next, we have another type of learning, and here's Nichelle with Delaware education reporter Avi Wolfman-Arendt.
Thanks, Shirley. Delaware students are now in the process of taking standardized testing that is connected with the Common Core education standards. These standards are tougher, and they also allow us to introduce a new feature we're calling Teach Me.
Thanks, Nichelle. So these tests are supposed to gauge new types of skills, and it means teachers are changing their lessons to get students up to speed. For this segment, we're going to look at a Milford classroom to learn what the Common Core looks like up close.
All right. So here's what we're going to do today. We are, finally on the 5th day of A Mother's Words.
On a chilly March day at Milford Central Academy, Sherry Giesman's 7th grade English class is about to wrap up a lesson plan that's been 5 months in the making.
I've been working off and on since October. And even when the lesson itself was done, was completed and finished, there was still more that I had to do for my class.
Yeah, October. That's when Giesman joined the Dream Team, a group of about 80 Delaware teachers who were specially selected to create intense Common Core lesson plans and then share them with peers. And I do mean intense lesson plans.
So we took this letter, and before we did anything, we did a text analysis on it to find out its lexile level, which is its readability level, and it came out that this was on grade level.
Giesman's lesson is about a 2-page letter written by the mother of a soldier killed in Vietnam. She used to spend about 30 minutes teaching this text. This year, students have spent 5 days picking over every word and syllable.
Every Common Core days, we just basically, we read the letter, we talked about it, we talked about the feelings that the mom might have, and, tied it more into Vietnam. It'd just be one class. And now we're on our 5th class of this. And the kids really aren't bored with it. They really go into it, and they keep finding new things.
The point of all this is to encourage what's called close reading. Students dig deep into the material, and instead of basing their answers on inference, they have to cite direct evidence from the text. The hope is they'll become better critical thinkers and more dogged researchers. As she circulates, Giesman hammers these lessons home.
She has a great beginning here, and then she used text evidence. You can tell she used text evidence because she put quotation marks around it. Okay?
And hammers.
This is where the light bulbs start clicking in your heads and things go on, and I'm like super excited. Because rather than give me just what you think, you immediately looked at the text and gave me text-based evidence.
And hammer some more.
That's a great introduction, but now you have to go back to the text. I'll get it. You have to go back to the text and put things in from the text.
This is just one small slice of the Common Core, which covers every grade level and all sorts of subject matter. But it gives you an idea of how it feels to watch students transition from one way of learning to another. It also gets at a deeper truth about these new standards, just how present they can be in a classroom environment.
I was aware of standards before. I didn't purposely plan with standards in mind. Now I have a little cheat sheet that I keep in my plan book, and I write my standards down, and I purposefully plan using those standards. So, I mean, it hasn't changed what I do, but being more purposeful in my planning to make sure I hit those standards.
Oftentimes, those standards themselves can feel familiar. The biggest difference, Giesman said, is knowing you have to meet them.
Teaching is not a close your door and do what you want to do in your room anymore. Teaching is it's not for the weak. Teaching is hard.
So as soon as we turned off the cameras for this piece, a second class of students entered the room, and when Ms. Giesman told them they'd be learning about that Vietnam letter again, there was this big collective adolescent groan. So, of course, it's never easy to get total buy-in on big changes.
But overall, Avi, how do you think that the students took to this new kind of teaching?
Really well, actually. I think they sensed it was something new, and they were really trying their best to engage it and get it right.
Mm-hmm. So how does this story fit into the larger picture of Delaware's Common Core implementation?
So big picture, there's a lot of different layers to this. Some teachers learn about it through official professional development days. Some teachers will just get a textbook that's Common Core aligned and they just start teaching from it. And then there's some teachers, very few, like Sherry Giesman, who get these really intense Common Core experiences. The hope is that for someone like Sherry, she's going to teach other teachers about this, and that it will sort of filter outward from there in like concentric circles. In fact, in May, there's going to be an event where some of these dream teamers get together with other teachers and try to tutor them about implementing Common Core in the classroom.
So Common Core is going to be sticking around in Delaware?
Yeah, it looks like that, at least for the time being.
Okay, thank you so much, Avi. You can learn more and read more about Common Core and other education stories, including our Teach Me feature at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Coming up, the story of the ice cream store that's introducing vegan eating to Wilmington. And comic book art isn't just kids stuff, but kids can get inspiration from our first experience.
The CDC will soon release its study of Wilmington's violence situation. Violence was one of the topics in our recent Legislative First Extra. I sat down with Senators Margaret Rose Henry and Greg Lavelle, along with Representative Stephanie Bolden. We offer a portion of that conversation in our first person segment. Mayor Dennis Williams was excited that Wilmington did not have a homicide for a 3-week period. And is it safe to say that's something to celebrate?
I think it is. I know that all of us at the state level have been very concerned about crime, because crime happens in Wilmington, but it also happens all over the state of Delaware. And I think we're turning the corner, quite frankly, on the crime in Wilmington. I guess you know that the legislature passed a resolution to establish a study group, and they've been meeting with legislators, they've been meeting with citizens group, they've been talking to people. But I think, honestly, the biggest change is that the community has begun to be involved at a higher level than ever before, because I think they're saying we're not going to take it anymore, and it really takes the cooperation of the community with the police to really make things happen.
Is Wilmington really the crime capital of the United States, or is that a bad headline?
Well, that's not a good headline, and it is a headline. So, perception becomes reality. No one's happy with the homicides, and the statistics point to a very violent city. And we've heard anecdotally and through stories that it's trickling down, sort of this broken window theory, nuisance crimes, and no mugging's minor, but they call it apple picking, stealing cell phones, things like that, which is not good. It's not good for business. But before that, it's not good for the folks who live in these neighborhoods who are afraid to come out of their houses. So I hope this crime commission, which reports on March 31st, will continue to benefit the police in terms of strategies and policing strategies. You have some of these murders solved because right now people are literally getting away with murder.
A lot of people will not move into Wilmington, or you can't sell housing in Wilmington. So the fact that we're making a turn in terms of the crime rate, I think will help the economy. I really do.
And
I think
jobs,
right, and jobs and everything. So I'm hoping that things are going to look brighter in the future.
I live in the community which I grew up in, which is maybe about a block or two from actually where some of the crime is taking place, shootings as well. The fact that there haven't been any recent, I think that's something that's great. However, we want it to continue. We don't want to get hung up in what hasn't taken place so that somebody will go out and do something, make it take place. But we have a lot of good things that are going on that are addressing our crime. One is East Side Rising. We're looking at all the vacant houses that are there, and they're being all bought up and being rehabbed for home ownership. We have the commission, as was indicated, their report, I think they've looked at a lot of areas, different things. They have walked the areas where most of the crime is. I'm looking for us to bring the camera program back and get it up and running, getting that up to par with the equipment that's needed that is in these high crime areas that will also assist the police officers in their job to do better. So, and the community people have gotten involved because they see progress in these different commissions and things going forward. And of course, education is the biggest thing. If you don't have a good education system, regardless of what kind of crime, because we have low property tax, et cetera, that's incentives for people to move here. But they look at the education system, if they have children, where they're going to put them.
So it sounds like it's a really good mood downstate in helping Wilmington with this crime issue. Would you agree, Senator LaValle?
Yeah, as goes the city, so goes the state is one theory behind that. So I do think there's broad support. I do think there'll be interest in what actually comes out in this report and how that's put into place. All of us truly have to work together, first and foremost for the people who live in the communities and are maybe afraid to leave their homes, to the business community, to this trend nationwide for young people to wanting to move into urban cores, and organizations like Buccini Poland who are trying to meet and create that housing demand. So it all works together, and it's all very important.
That conversation, along with our first extra from Legislative Hall, can be found online at WHYY.org/first. You can also view this show and all of our past shows there whenever you want.
There's a growing trend of healthy eating. Just take a look at all the new products catering to those who are health conscious. But one Delaware eatery is taking it a step further by getting creative with vegetarian and vegan meals.
Usually I had to go to Philly if I wanted a really good vegan food.
Those trips are fortunately over for Dave Novikov, now that healthy plant-based food options are being served up in Delaware at Drop Squad Kitchen, but with a twist.
That's all they do here is plant-based food. So the fact that they add that kind of the soul food flair is like nothing anyone is doing in this area at all. No one is doing what they're doing here.
Come to find out, there are a lot of vegans and vegetarians in Delaware. There are a lot of people, whether they are plant-based 100% or not, are really interested in being more healthy.
Which is why the owner of this vegetarian eatery, who made the decision to change her diet as well many years ago, decided to set up shop and share some of her unique recipes.
I'm here to show you that you can eat the things that you enjoy. You can eat them by having whole foods. It's just about being very creative with the actual plant-based ingredients.
Last year, a Gallup study revealed 45% of Americans surveyed are trying to eat more healthy and actively seek organic fruits and vegetables at the market. And in Delaware, that trend is seen as well.
I do see a growing number of people paying attention and Healthy eating is very important because our bodies are like the biggest investment.
However, everything isn't as good as it sounds, says Abundance, which is why she strongly recommends people read labels and ask about the ingredients in their meals.
We do have to be careful. Just because something says it's all natural, it might not be. Look at the back of a juice bottle, for example, and it'll say 100% natural, but it only has 25% juice.
While the menu here lists a wide variety of dishes and smoothies, Abundance has even taken her healthy movement a step further by educating others through cooking classes.
What's crazy is that the majority of the people who take those classes are not vegan, they're not vegetarian. They just want to be more creative and trying to be more healthy, because we always assume in being more healthy, it's lettuce, it's tomatoes, that's it. No bread, I can't eat the things that I enjoy. I'm here to show you that you can eat the things that you enjoy.
Right now, Abundance operates out of her parents' riverfront store, known to many as Molly's Ice Cream, but says this is simply just a start.
We're interested in expanding. So right now we're like Drop Squad Kitchen at Molly's. My mom is going to announce that it will be Molly's at Drop Squad Kitchen. So she has even jumped on the bandwagon and the revolution per se for more healthier options, and she's allowing me to use this as a platform to do that.
The Drop Squad Kitchen recently landed a contract to make lunch for the Goddard School on the riverfront, so business is picking up. One other note, Abundance Child recommends you pay attention to the fruit and vegetables you buy at the supermarket. Anything with a sticker beginning with the number 9 is organic, and if it begins with 4 or a 6, that means it's genetically modified.
State Senator Karen Peterson is once again going to push for an end to the death penalty in Delaware. Rob Torno has some thoughts about that, and he expresses them in this month's NewsWorks Cartoon. Hi, Rob. Let's go through this month's cartoon,
sure.
The death penalty chamber with some very well-known folks looking on.
Yeah, so Karen Peterson has introduced a bill, again, to repeal the death penalty, again, and Schwarzkopf doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want the bill to get out. And he has this weird sort of olive branch that he's passed along where he said, you know, he'll consider it if you make the case that it accepts everybody except for cop killers, you know, which seems weird.
They would still be eligible for the death penalty.
Yeah, it just seems weird to value a cop's life over, say, anybody else's life. I'm always going to be against the death penalty, but it just seems like a weird kind of posture.
And it really is kind of a sort of an odd issue in that it divides folks in the General Assembly, not really across partisan lines, because you have Democrats really against Democrats with Senator Peterson and Speaker Schwarzkopf both on the D side.
It's a tough issue because politicians use it as pretty much the only way to show that they're hard on crime, right? You can punish criminals. But a lot of conservatives who are pro-life, you know, are also opposed to the death penalty. So you're right, it's like a point of connection between like two usually diverse sides.
All right, and we will see what happens. Let's talk about your other passion, sports. Yep. The Eagles entertaining, or at least considering Tebowing. Tim Tebow come in for a workout. I guess chips in control, whatever he thinks will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Tebow thing is ridiculous, right? He's brought in other quarterbacks, but it's just sort of a symptom of how great this offseason has been. You pretty much demolish your whole offense. You're bringing in a new defense. You might trade for a rookie quarterback. You know, it's crazy, but it's Chip Kelly, you know, it's entertaining.
Especially for somebody in the sports commentary business, it's been good for you, I guess. Rob is all over the pages of newsworks.org. He's also all over Twitter. You can follow him at Rob Torno. Rob, thanks for being here.
No sweat.
Comic book themes and characters are everywhere, from movies to television and even comic-inspired art. First Experience visited one such show at the Gibby Center for the Arts in Middletown, Delaware, to see the work of some local talent. The show is a way to inspire kids to draw and paint, as well as fans of comics to get out of the theaters and inside an art gallery.
We just wanted to have a comic-themed art show, and we have a lot of local comic book artists, and I think it's really popular right now, and just wanted to have something that adults and children can enjoy in the gallery. And to have it in our town, not have to drive, further away, just it's good to have it here. I've been reading comic books as long as I can remember. Comic books and collecting was something you'd almost keep hidden, a couple years ago, but now, everyone does. It doesn't matter who you are. I think everyone can openly say they love comics and enjoy a comic book gallery or movie. I just really get immersed in the world of comics and the stories. You get upset if something happens to your favorite character or something in the story that you don't like. For me, that's what it is. Just the story is just the best part of it. I think comic books and comic book characters and superheroes are just going to keep getting more and more popular. So that's going to still be the first thing a lot of children draw. When I was a kid and collecting, maybe you could find comic books and some toys or something, but you can't go into any main store now without having a wall of clothes or a wall of toys, or they're going to see it. They're going to see there's a lot of opportunity for them to draw art.
Just to be able to take something and put it on paper and give ideas and inspiration to other people. I think that kids have a lot of opportunity to express themselves, and I see it here. We do classes and we do art camp. The kids really want a way to express themselves. I think that's where they're going to find their true happiness. So I would hope that they would look at something and say, well, I could do that, or I could do my own thing with that.
When I was young and I would read, for instance, one Superman comic and he was drawn a certain way, saw more and more artists, they all put their own spin on them, and Superman doesn't have the same curl or the same square jaw, and then you realize that you can draw Superman and still make him your own. And I think now a child could make his own character. He can take things that he loves and make his own comic, something that other people will enjoy too. I think it turned out really well. I think there's a lot more artists that want to contribute. I think once we have this out there and there's exposure and people see it, we'll be able to get more and more people interested each year and hopefully get a little bit bigger.
To me, there's no right and wrong in art. So that's a way, nobody's going to tell us what we have to do. When it comes to art, we can do our own thing. So I would hope they would get that. What more can you ask out of life, really, to just inspire somebody?
The show organizers hope to grow the show in the coming years, adding more artists. The Gibby offers art classes and shows for all ages throughout the year, many in conjunction with the historic Everett Theater next door. You can find more information on their website, theeverett.org.
If you like that story, we have a whole lot more just like it for next week's First. It is our First Experience special. You'll have a ringside seat for all of the arts and culture in Delaware.
One of my favorite shows of the year. Should be fun. That is First for this week. We thank you for watching. For Nichelle Polston, Avi Wolfman-Arendt, and Shirley Min, I'm Mark Eichman. Have a great week.